what I want to do here is to explain the structure of the book. Basically, before we got anywhere with the book at all, we had to make sure we got approval. There's no just point producing an ITIL book unless you make sure the right authorities have been involved. So we did get official approval from OGC, from TSO, and from ITSMF. They've proofread the book, they've been involved in it. So we're very confident it's going to meet your requirements. That was the key part, making sure it follows the true ITIL components. We wanted to write it in a straightforward language. Not fancy words, not big clever words, but straightforward words that you can read and understand immediately. And for me, I'm a very visual person. So for me, what I wanted to see was lots of good templates, lots of good charts. Templates you can take away and use and start applying. And there's plenty of those in the books. And that helps to me to clarify things. Also, I've also put some analogies in here or there, just to help to clarify points and make the thing a little bit more fun. And you'll find them in little boxes as little asides throughout the book. The most important thing about the book, though, is it had to be a step-by-step guide, like a project approach, a step-by-step guide. And to do that, I had to first of all create like a mini project to say this is how ITIL-Lite would work, how you would implement ITIL-Lite. Then I could turn that into the book. And it's made up of these components. First of all, we start the journey through the map to get to the quest, which is ITIL implementation of ITIL-Lite, with process design. You know, there's lots of stuff talked about process design and process orientation, very complicated. Look, we're doing a light version here, so let's have light processes. So we start off by looking at how to build straightforward, logical, simple processes that really work and can be monitored and measured and are easy to build. So we start off the book with process design and how to monitor those processes, how to build those processes. Then we move on to the next step, which is categorizing the components of ITIL v3. Now, I was kind of confused here because I thought everybody would have done this already. You've got 30 or so components, let's say 30 for argument's sake. Are they all action components? I mean, do they all do something? Or are some of them influencing components? They actually influence the action components. For example, an action component will be incident management. That's something we have to do. We have to get things fixed. It's an active component. But where are the rules and regulations that tells me how to allocate a priority, who I should escalate to? Where is that stuff? And the answer is that will be in service level management somewhere. So hang on, we've got here, we've got an influencing process called service level management that influences an action process. So when we start looking at this, we realize we need resources, we need capacity, we need availability. They need to be underpinned. So this really, really key chapter, an extremely interesting chapter, is all about how I think you can categorize your processes and your management functions, etc., into action, into influencing, into resourcing and underpinning, 4 categories. And then when you build, you'll build a much better structure. There's no point putting in lots of action processes if they don't have the rules and regulations. There's no point having rules and regulations if you don't have the action processes. It's a marriage between the two. So in this chapter, we concentrate on how to categorize, how you can categorize your processes. Okay, once we've done that, the next thing we have to do is filtering. And that's what we do next. Filtering is very simple. It's a case of eliminating what we don't want to do. So what we're left with at the end are these are the 10, 5, whatever number of processes that we're going to put into our ITIL-Lite. And we explain how to filter, just like filtering gravel. You got a truck full of rocks, you put it through a filtering or gravel machine, and the big rocks come out. Now you've got medium and small rocks. You put them through another machine with a different filter. Now you've got small rocks, medium rocks, big rocks, ready to sell and distribute. Same approach. Next, we wanted to concentrate on understanding the light and what light is. And that makes sense. Okay, how do we approach this at light components? And for that, we need component maturity and understanding component maturity. But before we did that, ITIL-Lite, what we did there is I looked for a long time and I came up with about 10 different templates that takes the books and the categories and plots all of the different processes in them. And when you look at that, it's like magic. You actually see the perspective of ITIL and how it works for the very first time. Now, if we've selected, if we've got our template, we've done our filtering, our categorizing, we've got our template, the next thing is maturity. How far do we want this process to be mature? Do we want it to be fully integrated with the business? Or do we just want it to work? So what we have to do here next is to say if the components we've filtered, we've selected and we've mapped, next thing to do is say what's the maturity level? Once we've established the maturity level, we can then say, okay, in which order are we going to implement these processes? And the reason I'm saying that is you may find that you're very close to maturity already with some of your existing processes. You may decide to do them first. Look, we can do them quickly. They're done, they're out the way. Next, we have to look at the action plan. putting together a plan to do all this stuff. I mean, it's all great hearing all this stuff, but how do I plan it? What do I need to record? What do I need to document? And that's all in this component here called building the action plan. Next, we've got gap analysis. We talked about maturity a minute ago. Maturity level here, we want to be there. What's it going to cost us to close the gap? That's your plan. That's your business. That's what it's going to cost you. What does it cost to close the gap? We do gap analysis, and so then we're now prepared. We've got our mature process set up. We know the priorities, which ones we're going to do first, second. We know how we're going to do them. We know what we're trying to achieve. We've got them categorized. Then we can do gap analysis to find out the work. When we've done all that, we come to the final chapter, which is putting together a master plan. So you can manage all this while it's in action. So you can control it while it's in action. Let me just run through those quickly. Process design, building and monitoring is the starting point. Then about how to categorize the process into action processes and so on. The filtering to get rid of the ones we're not going to do right now, we're going to do in the future or not do at all maybe. Then we look at we look at the mapping of the books and the actions, and we see pictures of how it all fits together. Then we move on to maturity, the maturity level. By the way, we're using the ITIL maturity level model here. So we got the maturity where we are, the maturity where we want to be, prioritize the processes, put together our action plan, then we can do gap analysis, find out what it's going to cost us to close the gaps. And to do all of this, we need our master action plan. Remember, this is a step-by-step guide. It's just like reading a kind of a projected approach, but in simple, straightforward language.